The build-up to the 2015 Longines International Hong Kong races is almost over. The horses are now at the track and we are just about ready to race. And welcome everybody to our special Racing to Win edition of the 2015 Longines International Races. I'm Brett Davis, joined by Sally-Ann Grassick and John Blantz. And over the next hour or so, we're going to take you through the big 4 races at Sha Tin coming up on Sunday. Firstly, welcome to Sally-Ann Grassick, of course, who works for Acadia in France, the international specialist. It's great to have you here, Sally-Ann. Welcome.
Thanks very much. Thank you for having me.
How did you travel over okay?
Yeah, pretty good. I've enjoyed it so far. It's been a hectic week.
Yeah, and how about you, John? How have you enjoyed your week?
Yeah, it's been marvellous so far. A little on the tiring side, but a lot of people who've been in Hong Kong a lot longer than me say this is the best lineup we've ever had for the international weekend, so bring it on.
Absolutely, yeah. 3 defending champions, of course, will be going around on Sunday afternoon. Right now, let's get into pulling apart the races and trying to work out who is going to be successful on the day. And we're going to start, obviously, with the Vase, the mile-and-a-half race. Here is the lineup. 2,400 metres. It's a long run down the Sha Tin straight before they reach that first turn. And John Flynch here to defend his title.
He certainly is, and he must have a very good chance as well. Sirius Des Aigles, a veteran, is horse number 2. Then Canic Chase, the Woodbine International winner. Preferment, Helene Superstar for the home team, as indeed is Dominant, who's won this race before. Then we have Helene Happy Star in the hands of the Magic Man, Joe Moreira. Harbour Master is horse number 8, Kea, who was 3rd in this last year. Ensuring, Highland Real for Ireland, Ming Dynasty for France, and Darien as well for France.
Let's have a look at the speed power information for the first of the internationals. And what did you think of the pace here, John? I think there'll be a good tempo through the first 100 or so, but they'll probably ease it up a little bit. Khir, of course, who was placed in the race last year behind Flincher, began very well that day. He hasn't begun that well recently. He is classified as an outsider. And Flincher's come up with barrier number 8, so it's a little bit awkward potentially for him.
Well, I tend to be of the opinion that Flincher could probably be almost drawn here in our office, and he still have a very good chance of winning on Sunday. But Kea is an interesting runner because he did set the pace, albeit a very slow one, for quite a long way last year, and he got a pretty soft lead. But I think if he goes a bit faster, that's only going to help Flincher, actually.
Well, we're going to have a look at Flincher's performance in the Arc, which was pretty much a bit of a sit sprint this year, and he got a nice run up on the speed, of course, runner-up in the last 2 Arcs.
He's such a consistent performer. Prince Khaled Abdullah has been so lucky. He's won so much prize money for him, and he went down to an amazing horse in Golden Horn in the Arc, but he lost nothing in defeat. He's an amazing horse. Maxime Guyon and Vincent Cheminot, the 2 jockeys who've ridden him, both sing his praises constantly. He looks in great form, and I publicly have said all along when they were talking about running him in the Japan Cup instead of coming here, I kept saying that I thought he should come back to Hong Kong because I think he loved the track here last year.
And we saw him the other morning, John. He looked really much at home, didn't he?
Yeah.
Flicking the ears around and so forth. He looks very settled.
He looked very laid back, and yeah, Sally-Ann was referring to there. He split 2 of the best horses of his generation there in the Arc. And of course, he ran such a good race behind Trev the year before, and the form this year has not really slacked off at all, despite the fact he's now 5 years old. I think he's going to be very, very difficult to beat.
Well, Preferment was a Victoria Derby winner as a 3-year-old. Let's hear from his trainer, Chris Waller.
Looks very well. He's recovered quickly from the trip and put on the necessary weight that he lost, and very fresh yesterday in particular, so we did a bit of extra work with him this morning just to keep him level-headed and keep him ticking over nicely in terms of his fitness. I guess it was a maintenance gallop was what you would call it here, and couldn't be happier with him. Nash Rawiller was aboard this morning and said he felt great. Bit of rain over the last couple of days has, in his opinion, helped the track, and in particular our horse, and he stretched out beautifully without being asked for an effort this morning.
He's a Derby winner over 2,500. He's also a Turnbull Stakes winner over 2,000 metres. Why did you go for the Vase ahead of the Cup, given that he's proven at both sort of distances?
He's coming back from a Melbourne Cup distance. In my opinion, that tends to just flatten the horse a little. Fortunately, this year, although he didn't get any luck, that was disappointing. But from the positive aspect of that, they went very slow. I think about 10 seconds slower than normal. So it wasn't a tough run. But bringing them back from the 2 miles to 2400 is certainly a lot easier than putting that spark back into them to make them run fresh over 2000. So it looked a logical choice to me.
Yeah, I think when you go back and analyse, as Chris said there, the run in the Melbourne Cup was certainly luckless for Preferment, and I thought his run also in the Cox Plate, he didn't get his fair share of luck. A lot of horses swept wide and Winks went through nearer the inside. I think, as Chris mentioned there, John, that Sha Tin will actually suit him, and I like him coming back from the longer trip of the Melbourne Cup. Yeah,
I think if you looked at bits and pieces of this horse's form, especially the Victoria Derby and, of course, the Turnbull Stakes, you'd have thought that middle distances are definitely his thing. 2,400 metres could well be his optimum trip, and he wasn't particularly lucky in the run here either, as you were suggesting. And Highland Reel, of course, ran pretty well, but I think Preferment has looked pretty well over the course of the track work that we've been covering. I think he's got a pretty solid chance, yeah.
What about Highland Reel in the Vase? How do you assess him?
I think Highland Reel has put up some great performances this year. His runs in America that have been really good. I'm just a little bit worried about him travelling back and forth across the world. It's a little bit difficult for him at the moment, but he wouldn't be one of my preferred horses, but I think he's had a long season.
Well, the 3-year-olds, of course, Northern Hemisphere bred, do get that £5 weight allowance, so that's certainly in their favour. It's there for Darrian as well. And we know what Alain de Royer-Dupré is capable of doing when he brings horses here to Hong Kong for the Aga Khan. Of course, this fellow's mother was able to win the race in 2009. She was a terrific filly/mare. She had a most explosive turn of foot, which she cut loose here at Sha Tin. How do you see him? Is he the mould of Mum?
I spoke to Alain de Royer-Dupré this morning about him, and he said that he judges Newbay as a level of judging Darrian, of how he ran. He said, he finished second to Newbay on that occasion, and then Newbay finished runner-up behind Flintshire in the Arc. So he said he's really using that as a marker for how Darrian's improving. He thinks he's a horse that is just getting better and better, and he thinks he'll get stronger again next year even. But the only worry he had was he galloped him on the grass yesterday on the turf here, and he said the horse was a little bit overawed by the size of the grandstand, and he spent more time looking up at the grandstand than he did looking at Galo Chop, who was running away from him in front. But he said he thinks the week long here will really get him top, and he thinks that the place will suit him by the end of the week.
Well, I think he's a horse that certainly oozes quality. Let's hear from his trainer, Alain de Royer-Dupré. Alain de Royer-Dupré, who has Darrian going around here. Alain, no stranger to Hong Kong. You've had great success here. What's your confidence level going into the big race on Sunday?
I think he's a 3-year-old, but he improved all the season, and he looks very well, and he has a good turn of foot, and if you have a good ride, Soumillon knows the place. He could be competitive.
How do you compare him to Mum, Darrian, who won in 2009?
He has more speed than the Dame. He's because he's by Chamardal. Chamardal he gives a lot of speed, but I think he is a typical track for him because he likes the very flat track, and I'm sure he could be competitive.
Barrier 6 gives you a few options in the race.
Yes, it's good. It's very important to be in the middle, because if he is not speed enough at the beginning, he can stay outside. If he can wait, and I think it's very important to have a draw in the middle.
I felt a touch of confidence actually from Alain in that interview. I take on board what you said, Sally Ann, about the horse being overawed a little bit by the place, but I think the next few days he'll probably settle a little bit, and I think he's a genuine chance in the race. Very much looking forward to see what he can offer when the whips are cracking. With regards to the local horses here in Hong Kong, of course, Dominant is already a winner of this race, and this is a race, we must point out, that has been dominated by horses in the Northern Hemisphere for many, many years, for most of the time that this race has been going on. And even Dominant was Northern Hemisphere bred. Yeah, but he was bucking the trend, wasn't he, when he won this race back in 2013. I thought this was a very good performance from Dominant.
dominant in the Jockey Club Cup, and it's noticeable that John Moore seems quite quietly confident about this horse's chance. You look at military attack there and blazing speed involved in that race, so that was a pretty solid effort, I think, in preparation. It was obviously a prep run. I think he's tuned up nicely.
Yeah, and John's mentioned that the trip to Australia to the Sydney Cup and so forth has actually brightened him up since he's come back, so that's a real positive. He's going in with some form underneath his belt. Who's going to win the Vase, John?
Flincher, in a word. I think he's got a very, very strong chance. He was a horse who probably won despite the way the race was run last year, so if they go slowly again, I think he'll still probably get over the line, but if they go a bit quicker, he'll be would be able to win even more easily, I think, than he did last year. Dominant, I think, has been nicely tuned up for another crack. Of course, let's not forget he was fourth in this last year when the race wasn't probably run to suit him. And Highland Reed, I think, might be able to sneak into a place, although I'm a bit worried about Darien as well, who I think can improve nicely as well. But that's the 1, 2, 3 for me.
Sally Ann, can he emulate Dr. Dino from 5 or 6 years ago, Flincher?
I think if anyone can, Flincher can. I'm a huge fan of his, and the French have an amazing record in this race, so I'm going to stick with Flincher for my first choice. Highland Reel, although I'm worried about his travels back and forward, if anyone can understand how to travel a horse, it's Aidan O'Brien and Darien for Alan de Dupre. I think the couple more days here will really suit him.
I'm going to side with Darien, but I think that Flincher is clearly the horse to be beating. So 13 to beat number 1, and I think Dominant has a great chance for Hong Kong, and I've got him in for third. So that is the Vase, the first of 4 Group 1 internationals has been looked at. We're going to take a break, and of course coming up on the other side of the break, we'll be talking about the Hong Kong Sprint.